Welcome to today's edition of Weathering the Storms of Life with the Rangers. Rob Raines, Sally Tippett Raines, STLSportsPage.com. We're also, of course, doing these on rainbowsforkids.org. It's a big day for Rainbows for Kids here. We'll get talking about that before we get into the quiz questions, which will be about the 2000s, the decade between 2000 and 2009.
This should be a good quiz, but I'm excited. I got my Rainbows for Kids shirt on today because we have the first time since several months that we've actually have a fun activity planned for the kids today, and it's a social distancing activity. So we'll be posting pictures of it after it happens today. It's a very cool, fun thing that the families will get to do. And the one thing I want to say is every day I've been giving these words of wisdom, and one of the things about Rainbows for Kids is our motto is giving kids something to look forward to. And so we just think that's so important to have something to look forward to so you can have a positive outlook. Their positive outlook, of course, is going to help them in their recovery. But each one of us, if we have a positive outlook, if we have something to look forward to, we're going to have a better day. We're going to get through all this a lot easier than if we wake up, what else can happen? Because we all know more can happen.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, and speaking of having good days to look forward to, I mean, obviously the decade of the 2000s, one of the things that happened is that we said goodbye to Busch Stadium 2 and welcomed Busch Stadium 3. And I know personally, our family traces a lot of its big moments back to Busch Stadium 2. We got married in 1982, had our wedding reception at the Stadium Club in 2002. It was a lot of key,
got a whole
key games.
big
We got
thing
both
here
of the
that we
kids
put
got
together.
a thing for each kid when they were at the final game, not the playoff game. Look,
Everything's going to fall.
there goes the scoreboard.
Okay. Well,
the final game of the regular season at Busch Stadium 2005, they were there. BJ was a vendor, sold lemonade and cotton candy and stuff at the ballpark for a couple of years while he was in high school. So that was a big moment. But just all the special events that happened there. I mean, obviously winning the World Series in '82. I remember Glenn Brummer stealing home. I remember Bob Force's no hitter. I remember Ozzy's home run in the playoffs against the Dodgers. And there were just a lot of really moments. And I really do remember kind of walking out on the field after that final playoff game in 2005, knowing that was the end of that stadium. And it was kind of sad. I liked that ballpark. I know a lot of people didn't like the ballpark because it was hot. They said it was hot. It was a cookie cutter stadium, all that kind of stuff. The football Cardinals played there. Kind of in that era of stadiums, the 1960s, when like Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, they all had kind of the Cincinnati, they all had kind of the same type of stadium. But I liked that ballpark a lot.
Yeah, we had some great memories. That's why we liked it so much. And it was hard for us to get used to the current stadium, but now we both like that stadium.
Yeah, I'm sure it's grown on me.
Yes.
Hard to believe it.
And we wish we were playing baseball
15
right now.
years that they would have been playing baseball at that ballpark. All right, on to the questions here about 2000. So hopefully everybody will play along here and get the answers to some of these questions right. We're talking about more recent history now, so maybe a lot of the younger fans will remember some of these moments. So question 1. Mark McGwire's final game, speaking of final games, of his career was Game 5 of the Division Series 2001 against the Diamondbacks. After striking out in his first 3 at-bats that game, he was replaced by a pinch hitter in the 9th inning. Who was that pinch hitter? Do you remember that moment?
Question 2. In the Cardinals' World Championship year of 2006, they barely squeaked into the playoffs. How many games did they win in the regular season that year? How many games did the Cardinals win in 2006?
Question 3, Albert Pujols, obviously the star of all those Cardinal teams in that decade. He made the opening day roster in 2001 as a rookie only because another player got hurt near the end of spring training and had to go on the disabled list. That created an opening on the roster for Pujols. Who was the player that got hurt that spring?
Question 4, between 2001 and 2009, Pujols won the MVP award 3 times. But how many times did he finish second in the voting for the MVP?
Question 5, speaking of MVPs, who was the MVP of the 2006 World Series?
When Pujols made his MLB debut on April 2nd, 2001, what position did he play?
Question 7, about Jim Edmonds, the former Cardinal center fielder. He was involved in 2 major trades during that decade of the 2000s. What 2 players did the Cardinals trade to Anaheim to get Edmonds in spring training of 2000? And then who did they obtain from the Padres when they traded Edmonds to San Diego in 2007 to end his Cardinal career?
Question 8. Reggie Sanders became the only 5th player in franchise history to hit 20 or more home runs and drive in 20 or more in a season when he did that in 2004. One of the other 5 2020 players did it 6 times in his Cardinal career. Who was that player? Are we going to Is it A, B, C? Or?
No, A is the answer. Correct there. The others are just the other players to ever do it once.
Oh, okay.
I was just going to clarify that.
Okay.
The answer. The only player to have he had 6 2020 seasons in his Cardinal career. Obviously did it before. Reggie Sanders did it in 2004. Question 9. Cardinals closed Busch Stadium 2, speaking of that moment, in 2005. Moved into the current Busch Stadium a year later. Who hit the final home run in the old Busch and the first home run in the new stadium? And you got to remember the playoff. The Cardinals ended 2005 with a playoff series against the Astros. I'm not talking about the last regular season home run. The last home run, it wasn't the playoff game in 2005 against the Astros, and then the first home run in 2006 at the new ballpark.
And number 10, in that first game at the new Busch Stadium, who was the Cardinals' starting pitcher?
We were at that game too.
Yes, we were.
Sitting with Brad and Karen Wood, if I remember right.
I do, yeah.
All right, on to the answers. Question 1. The batter who pinch hit for Mark McGwire in his final game was Kerry Robinson. Okay.
In the Cardinals World Championship year 2006, they barely squeaked into the playoffs. How many games did they win in the regular season? 83. They finished 5 games above 500.
Which is not very many.
No.
Probably. Question 3. Albert Pujols made the opening day roster because of an injury to Bobby Bonilla.
That one was a surprise. I forgot about that. Now that once I saw it, I realized it. But Question 4. Between 2001 and 2009, Pujols won the MVP 3 times. How many times did he finish second in the voting? He finished
3 times.
3 times. And the years were 2002, 2003, and 2006.
That's really crazy. 6 of the 10 years, he was either first or second in the MVP voting.
Wow.
Shows what kind of dominating player he was.
He was. That's amazing.
Now, the MVP of the 2006 World Series was David Eckstein.
And David Eckstein reminds me of a story. I think he's working on a book right now, his life story. And I have one of the inspirational stories in my book, Choose Happy, is by a guy named Jake Gronsky, who was in the minor leagues for the Cardinals. And he was going along having a great life, and then all of a sudden he got an injury. And it was shortly before he thought he was going to get to move up to the next level. And so he didn't end up playing. But circumstances had happened that he had met somebody, and he ended up writing a book about that person. And a little bit later, David Eckstein saw the book and thought it was really great and asked this guy to write the book. So sometimes when things don't go the way we think they're going to go, maybe God's preparing us for something else, because he never thought he would end up being an author, and now he'll be having at least 2 books so far.
Wasn't that the one about Josiah, the State College?
Yes, tell that story.
Yes. It was a young child that had a physical disability, but he ended up kind of becoming like a mascot of that ball club. And when they won the New York Penn League Championship, part of it was because of his the relationship that he had with the players. And every player who came through State College had a special relationship with him.
It was a neat book. I think it was called The Short Season, because isn't that what that?
Short.
He was short, but isn't that what the
I forget the
Spikes,
name of it. Yeah,
it was a
4-season team. Yeah, the New York Penn League short season. All right. When Albert Pujols made his Major League debut, he was playing left field. You remember he played left field for the first couple of years before he moved into first base.
Okay.
And Jim Edmonds was involved in 2 trades that were significant trades in Cardinal history. The Cardinals when they got him from Anaheim, they traded Kent Bottenfield and Adam Kennedy. And then, of course, the player who came back from the Padres when they sent Edmonds off to San Diego was David Freese.
Reggie Sanders became only the 5th player in franchise history to hit 20 or more home runs and drive in 20 or more home runs in a season when he did that in 2004. One of the other 5 2020 players did that 6 times in his Cardinals career. Who was that player? The answer is Ray Lankford. And the others to do it were
Lou Brock, Brian Jordan, and then Fernando Tatis all did it. I think Brian Jordan did it a couple times, but it's significant that Lankford did it all those times, really. That's a hard thing to accomplish. Question 9, the Cardinals closed Busch Stadium in 2005, opened the new stadium in 2006, the final home run, Game 2 of the NLCS against the Astros. That was hit by Albert Pujols. Pujols also hit the first Cardinal home run, Busch Stadium, opening day against the Brewers, but that was 1 inning after Bill Hall of the Brewers hit the actual first home run at the new Busch was by an opposing player, Bill Hall of Milwaukee.
Question 10, in the first game at the new Busch Stadium, who was the Cardinals' starting pitcher?
Mark Mulder. Didn't have a long Cardinal career, or really distinguished a Cardinal career, but it had that special moment in history.
When we were talking about the Busch Stadium, I had another memory about Busch Stadium. Remember they sold off the seats?
Mm-hmm.
And weren't we able to
we have a couple of them,
get a seat? But we auctioned them off for. Was that for the?
It was for the band.
Lindbergh High
That was
School
for the band,
marching band going to their Tournament of Roses parade.
Mm-hmm.
We auctioned off one of those seats. So somebody who supported the Lindbergh High School band has a couple of seats from Busch Stadium.
Exactly. So thanks for tuning in. Hope you did well on those questions. We'll be back with another edition of Weathering the Storms of Life with the Rangers here on STLSportsPage.com, also RainbowsForKids.org.